gas prices are through the roof. And you know who's to blame?
China!
Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. You are about to learn some things that YouTube doesn't want you to know because they're constantly unsubscribing our viewers without informing them. Or at least that's what a lot of you are saying again and again and again. And here's how YouTube auto-completed a search for China Uncensored. What on earth is China Uncle Goose? Quack! That's probably not what you were searching for. Well, maybe you, Greg. Anyway, stick around to the end and I'll show you how to fight YouTube suppression. So as we all know, fuel has been getting ridiculously expensive lately, thanks in no small part to the US conflict with Iran and supply chains disruptions spilling out from the Strait of Hormuz. And of course, the shameful neglect of the gays of Hormuz.
Isn't it a little bit homophobic that we're so focused on the Straits of Hormuz and not the gays of Hormuz?
Yes, I agree. Yes, for sure.
And you know what? This is only exposing how dangerously reliant people are on Chinese oil. Now, Chris, you may be asking, isn't China a massive oil importer? Haven't you been talking so much about China importing Russian, Iranian, and Venezuelan oil? To which I say, good on you for following the show. A fellow person of culture, and a looker too, I bet. Except for you, Greg. And yes, China is a massive oil importer, but it's also a massive exporter. You see, in the world of fuel supply chains, there are different kinds of oil. You got crude oil, the unrefined fossil fuels that you find in places like the US, Russia, and Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia. But there's also the refinement process that breaks down crude oil into petroleum products. But this is why some oil-rich countries, like Indonesia, for example, end up importing lots of oil even though they produce a lot. What they produce is crude oil, and what they import is refined petroleum because they just don't have enough refineries, or in some cases, any at all. It's kind of like producing a lot of canned tuna, but not having a can opener. And guess what? China's a big player in refined oil exports. According to Bloomberg, China, as shown here in gray, is Asia's third biggest fuel exporter behind South Korea and Singapore. It's also number one in oil refining capacity. When it comes to refining oil, the sky's the limit. The dark, polluted, unbreathable sky. Chinese refineries are comparatively very cheap to do business with. That's why Bangladesh, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Australia especially depend on Chinese fuel imports. They get anywhere from a third to over half of their jet fuel and diesel from China. Which is an excellent strategy, and one you won't see them live to regret in about 90 seconds. Foreshadowing. In Australia's case, China is also the largest source of aviation turbine fuel imports. And that's the most terrifying thing, which is saying something because everything in Australia is terrifying. Imagine what would happen if, hypothetically speaking, China invades Taiwan and shuts down oil exports. This would give China tremendous leverage over other countries that depend on Chinese oil just to function. The Strait of Hormuz crisis is already giving us a snippet of what we could face in the event China does some catastrophic world-changing move, intentionally this time. In response to what's happening with Iran, China has slashed oil product exports, including diesel, gasoline, and jet fuel, to ensure domestic supply. It's also restricted oil-dependent fertilizers. And now countries that depend on Chinese exports are feeling the painful venomous bite, like something in Australia. That huge decrease in supply, while demand remains high, is a big part of why your gas is so expensive. This should be a huge wake-up call for countries to reduce their dependence on China for fuel, because dependency is a weapon that China will always take advantage of. Unfortunately, dependency on China for oil supply chain goes a lot deeper than just buying jet fuel and diesel. Take lanthanum. Figuratively, don't literally take it, it'll kill you. Lanthanum's a rare earth mineral that's critical for making a lot of things like smartphones and jet fuel. It's also essential for making JP-8, which, despite how it sounds, isn't the upcoming 8th Jurassic Park movie. It's also known as F-34 in NATO, and it's the quintessential kerosene-based lifeblood that literally fuels military assets, including the M1 Abrams, most US naval engines, and NATO aviation. Even tactical generators for forward operating bases use JP-8. You can probably see where I'm going with this. Even though lanthanum is mostly found in the USA, Brazil, India, Sri Lanka, and Australia, China is the largest producer of lanthanum in the world. China has positioned itself through business deals and technological theft to become the go-to processor for just about every rare earth mineral out there. They have their fingers in a lot of sinister rare earth soups, which I'm pretty sure, as far as soups go, would be inedible and almost certainly kill you. And it continues to expand its influence in these kinds of resources. For example, as recently as last year, Chinese company Shenghe Resources got Australia's peak rare earths, which mines and produces lanthanum, to reject a $160 million US bid in favor of itself. Now, it's still possible to make jet fuel without lanthanum, but that means increased wear and tear, poor quality, and higher costs. This jet fuel actually could melt steel beams. This isn't the kind of thing that the US, much less the US military, should be depending on China for, or even allow China to have an outsized holdover. That would be like depending on cat burglars to install your security system. By the way, I know this picture is unrelated, but it's also the first image that comes up when you search cat burglar on Shutterstock, and I needed you to know that. The US government is well aware that it needs lanthanum free of Chinese control. It's one of many reasons why the Trump administration has been pushing hard to make rare earth mineral deals. That's a good first step, but we also need to make sure that we're not empowering China's oil industry. China cares a lot about energy independence, which is why it's been spending billions on improving its oil infrastructure. We've all heard of China's expanding partnerships with Russia and other countries to import oil. But we also need to beware of how China's improving its ability to produce it as well. Unfortunately, China's been getting decades of aid from the West, and it continues to get all the help it can from abroad to have an even more massive energy infrastructure. They're literally propping it up, which is vital since Chinese infrastructure isn't exactly known for being stable on its own. For example, Saudi Aramco, Chinese Sinopec, and Chinese FPCL formed a joint venture to develop a large-scale refining and petrochemical complex in China. And many other companies are giving China the technical know-how to produce more fuel that will undoubtedly be used for China's war machine and making other countries more dependent on China. We need to get on that, so we don't let them gain an even greater lead and leave the rest of the world more neglected than the gaze of Hormuz. Chuckles like that don't come free. It requires funding from viewers like you, which is why I want you to become an official member of my China Uncensored 50-cent army, which you can do by simply going to ChinaUncensored.tv and clicking that orange button to subscribe. And when you join me, you'll get awesome stuff like exclusive episodes, live streams, and a vibrant chat community. But you don't do it for the awesome stuff. You do it for the feels, because your support helps us fight YouTube censorship, pay our studio bills, hire great researchers and editors, and stand up to the CCP. We need 3,000 subscribers to stay afloat. We have 1,870 so far. We're more than halfway there, so if you've been on the fence about supporting us, now's the time. Again, go to ChinaUncensored.tv, click this button or the link below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching China Uncensored.